expenses were my living expenses. But don't go to a program that is not going to. You're valuable. They have money, and I say schools, and if they don't have the money, go somewhere else. I'm serious. I'm really serious. You know, opportunity avails itself. I know how much tuition is here. I know how much you're paying out of your pockets. Go to graduate school that will pay for you to go. I'm serious. But be passionate about your career. Be passionate about what you want to do. Okay, because that makes the difference. 20 years down the line, you'll still be passionate. Oh, wow. Down the line, you'll still be passionate about the people you serve and the things that you do. All right? That's my story.
Quick. About paying for graduate school. It is important. Philip talked about how they rank the schools, and that's important. It's important if you want to you're able to go to one of those ranked schools and come out of there. That's great. But paying for one of those ranked schools, it's not really worth it, because I know many people that. And it doesn't seem like it might not seem like it now, but they've gone to whether it's a master's program, a PhD program at a small school that gave them money to go, or and they are doing great things in the field that they're in. And so it's really about how well you work, how well you network.
Yes.
It's not that the school and the ranking is not really the highest thing on the list. So if you go to an obscure school but you get the experience in the field that you're working in, that can go a long way, and you're not $80,000 in debt, which also helps. So
a whole lot.
Can I add one more note too about the financial part? If you do an AmeriCorps program, this is the one that I know fully, that Ed Award that you get, some universities match your education award. So if you get $5,500, some universities will give you an additional $5,500 because of that time that you took off and because it was a year of service. Okay, so that is a super beneficial thing as well. Speaking of not paying for grad school. Okay.
Don't go to grad school.
Just kidding.
Just kidding. You guys should all look into what makes what the best fit is for you. I think we're all saying. Excuse me. My story is unique in that I have to start by saying I was eligible for SSS, but I wasn't in the program here at Pitt. So you guys need to start now. And what I mean by that is I was not the best student. I didn't know that I should be doing internships or volunteering, or I didn't seek out these things. I didn't really talk to my advisors. So you guys at least have heard us say this over and over and over. You at home as well, over and over and over. Do internships, do volunteer work, do different opportunities that come across. So I was just your average student, B student, sometimes C. And so when I graduated, I didn't know what I was going to do. And luckily, I worked in the dean's office here, so talking about networking. I worked in the dean's office, and they happened to have a position open. And so my plan was to work in the dean's office, apply to graduate school, Pitt would pay for it. That happened, but not until 13 years later, because let's see what happened was. I was hired just because of who I knew. I was hired as the secretary in the dean's office, and 3 months later, I lost my job. So, again, because of who I knew and because of my networking, I actually got a promotion. They eliminated my position, but they happened to have a promotion in student records. So luckily, I was just moved into that position. So I was very, 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 very lucky. So I actually got a promotion, and I worked there for 2 years, and it was great. I got to work with students, but I wanted a more connection with the students. And because I had a bachelor's degree, I was able to apply for an advising position at Pitt. So I did, and I got the job. And so then what prevented me from going to grad school at that point was they had eliminated the program that I thought I wanted to do. So we're all talking about doing research on the different programs. When I graduated, I wanted to go into counseling. Well, they literally, the day that I graduated, eliminated the program that I wanted to do. So it took me a long time, and because of my experience, I had a good college experience, don't get me wrong, but because I didn't take advantage of the opportunities, I thought that I couldn't do it. And that's the biggest advice I can give you guys is don't think you can't do it. That's a double negative. But have confidence that you can do it. And as we keep saying, you just have to find the right program for you. And the longer it went, the longer I was like, I'm getting too old to go to grad school. I don't know what I want to do. So seriously, 13 years later, I finally went back to grad school. And what happened was we were just getting into more and more things with student support services. And I'm like, I really should go and get an advanced degree because I want to move up. You can sometimes move up without having a graduate degree, but I really wanted to take advantage. So I started looking into programs, and one of our colleagues who doesn't work in SSS anymore was doing the library science degree. And I was thinking, that sounds interesting. So I did my research, and then my former roommate also did that degree at a different university. So just so you all know, even though you guys at home too, librarians do not read books all day. That is not our job. They're like, oh, it must be a fun job. No. And other people say, why do you have to have a master's degree to like check out books? And that's not, a couple of us on the panel have library experience besides just me. So those jobs are important, checking books in and out, customer service and all that. And professional librarians do those things as well. But professional librarians do things like budgets, book collections, programming, a lot of things that we have a library in SSS. We do programming. So a lot of these things sounded familiar. So I started doing research, and I went part-time. The program, as Lisa said, I only applied to one school, and that was just because that's like, I wanted to really, really go there. And you do put all your eggs in one basket, but I figured that I would try and see what happened. And because I had not those experiences that I should have had as an undergrad, they did admit me, but they admitted me provisionally. So I had to maintain high grades, which I did, and I graduated. Because really a C in graduate school is failing. So you have to maintain a 3.0 to stay in good standing in most graduate school programs, or higher, depending on the program. So I did, and I did well when I graduated. But I went part-time, paid for it, and we keep telling you guys this over and over, get other people to pay for it. But I still had to take out a loan. Because Pitt paid for, I believe it was 93%, I had to pay about 9%, I had to pay 9% tuition, which is a lot different than paying 100%. But I also had to pay taxes, and I had to have living expenses. Because I was going to grad school, I couldn't have a second job that I had while I was working here. So I did work full-time and go to school part-time, but I did it. So my biggest advice to you guys is you can do it. Don't let that self-doubt. You just have to find the right program for you. The older you get, it is harder to remember things. I'm not gonna lie, but I wasn't the old. I was, how old was I? 37, 36, and there was people much older than me, much younger than me. There's a whole bunch of mix of people. But a couple other things that I wanted to touch on that the panel hasn't, but please chip in, join in, speak up. Grad school, depending on your program, but a lot of programs will be group work, depending on what you're going for. But group work, and don't take this the wrong way, but I'm just going to be honest. There's a lot of weird people in graduate school, me included. No, what I mean by that is it's a good experience because you're gonna be working with a lot of diverse and different people. And in my program, we had to do a lot of group work. So the best piece of advice I received was actually from Miss Scott. And people tend to know things that I felt like, oh, I'm behind. I don't know what they're talking about. And she said, well, just ask them, how do you know that? Mm-hmm. And that was the biggest thing holding me back, is I was afraid that I wouldn't catch up or be able to understand what they were talking about. But I used her advice, and it was actually very helpful. And you just ask people, and you definitely catch up. And I had a good advisor, and I would ask a lot of questions. And so it's kind of funny being on the flip side of, we're advisors always telling you guys what to do, but being on the flip side going, gee, what should I ask my advisor? It was really interesting. But I would say group work, be prepared for that. But it's a good experience, and just play on your strengths. No one ever wanted to do the presentations because they were all filled with anxiety, and I don't mind doing the presentations. So you just play to your strengths. So I would volunteer to do the presentations, and they would all be happy, and they would do the research, and then we would get together and practice. So, or if you're the opposite of that, know what your strengths are and know what you can do for that. So, and then the last thing I wanted to say about that was we experienced someone, I can't remember who mentioned that, maybe a couple of people. Look at the programs and what you're going to get out of them for experience. The one thing I didn't like about my program was that there was no hands-on practicum experience. You could do an internship, which I did, but it wasn't required. It was called a field placement. So you could do a field placement or something else. I chose to do the field placement because a lot of people, it also intimidated me because a lot of people would always say, well, in my library we do this. A lot of them had either worked in the library field or were currently in the field, and I didn't have any experience at all. So I chose to do the internship, which was difficult because they wanted me during the day, and obviously I work full time. So I had to work something out, and luckily I had a flexible position at the time, and the staff at the time, we were able to work something out. But those are things to consider, okay? So make sure that you think about that. That internship led to a part-time job with that library, and I still work there today because I love it. It led to an interview with another well-known library in the area. Unfortunately, I made it to round 3, but then I didn't get the job. But what happened was then Mr. Burgos, our boss, told me he was retiring, and so then I ended up becoming the director of SSS. So it all worked out in the end. That's why I am a librarian, and I'll always be a librarian. But the skill, we always tell you guys about transferable skills. There's a lot of things from my grad school program that I apply daily here. And that's my story. I feel that was a long explanation. But, and you guys please feel free to chime in. But 2 other quick things that I wanted to tell you is I had a friend, everybody's story is different. I had a friend who was going to school, working full time here at Pitt, going to law school full time, and had an infant all at the same time. You can do it. And he passed the bar on the first try. Wow. The one day I saw him sleeping in his car before work, and I passed, and I was going to say something. I'm like, I'm just going to let him go. Poor dude, let him have his 10 minutes of sleep. So he had driven in early and just like crashed in the car before he had to go to his office. So he would go to his car on his lunch hour and take a nap. So you do what you have to do. And I also want to tell you guys that even if you're not going to school right away or you're not sure, this experience for Right Start class might prove that besides the gap year, you just may not know, like me, you may not know what you want to do, and that's fine. Yes. One of our students, I think this is smart, she's not sure yet, so instead of rushing into something and spending money on grad school, she's trying to interview for jobs instead. And she took this class. She actually made a portfolio of materials from all of her experiences, and she's taking that on job interviews with her to try and get a position. So, is there anything you guys would like to add about it?
I just want to say I did get my master's degree as a traditional graduate student, and I remember it's just a really neat experience because the people in your classes are just such a diverse group of people. And I can remember of being like 20, whatever, and sitting there listening to this person talk about like how she spent her years working in the field and sharing experiences and thinking like, wow, you know, that's really cool. Well, then when I was at Clarion, I thought, oh, I'd really like to, you know, make sure I stay up in education field because I was working with an education program. So then I started to take these classes, and it was so funny because it was like I was on the opposite side of it, because here I am sitting in this class with about half of people that were traditional grad students and then half that were like me, and talking about things that I had done and sharing experience. And I thought to myself, like, it's just a really, really neat thing, no matter what age you are when you go, because you learn, if you wait to go to grad school, the experiences, I think taking the classes that I did, even though I didn't quite finish with the second master's that I was going for, at least not yet, but I appreciated it like so much more. It was so funny because it's not that I didn't appreciate it when I was traditional age, but like seeing how it applied directly to what I was doing in my work, I just was blown away half the time. So I know some of the students were probably like, what's she doing, you know? But I just think life experiences like, you know, Sheba was talking about and these two were mentioning, being able to apply those when you go to grad school is you know, very, very valuable. And if you're traditional, learning from these people that have already been there. So
another note I would like to share in reference to graduate school, even though we all had the experience and most of us enjoyed getting the degree, it's a lot of work. It really is a lot of work. So I don't want you to think that you can just go to graduate school and oh la la la. It's a step above undergrad. You're mastering. You're becoming the expert in that field. So there's some expectations that they're going to have from you. They're going to pull that out of you so you can craft whatever or carve whatever it is that you're going to be. All right? So I'm not going to let you know, oh, it was wonderful. It was difficult at times, but it's absolutely worth it. All right?
There's a cartoon. I'm sorry, Jim.
No.
There's a cartoon that I've shared with people before that says before grad school and after grad school. And so it's, for those of you familiar with Lord of the Rings, before grad school it shows like Frodo, whatever. After grad school it shows Gollum. So that gives you an idea what Miss Scott's talking about. It's a very funny cartoon, but accurate.
But I just want to give one universal tip, no matter whether you're going to medical school for your PhD in psychology, because I know this because whether I had friends in those fields or talk to people, like it's the same thing. And we always try to preemptively tell you, okay, do these things now. And
Yes.
if you do not like to read, if you cannot, like a whole bunch of information at one time, take in a whole bunch of information and research write. Like if you just work on that before you graduate, if you have an idea of what to do when you go into a graduate program, it'll make things so much easier. The stress, because it's stressful because you're doing work and you're in classes and you're trying to, you know, navigate all these things. But if you just work on those two skills, it can translate universally to any program that you're doing, because then if you have that research mentality, you get better connected with the faculty in those fields. And if you're going into medical school, writing is a key component to research papers, and you think it might just be because you have to pick a specialty once you get further on, and they're all trying to get with doctors, and so I didn't realize this until after the fact. I wish I'd have known before that. But so I always say research, writing, and reading. Be able to read a lot of material, and so just work on a little bit at a time. It's a skill, and so you should be okay.
Every paper that I wrote in grad school was at least 20 pages in my program, in my Master of Arts program. It was crazy.
Sorry, Michelle. One thing I'll also say is if you do decide to do a gap year, the application process for some of them are very intense, as well as the interviewing process. When I did my interviews with Public Allies, it was a day of interviewing with different scenarios, with different panels of people, and then after that, going to interview with the place of internship, and then after that, another interview to make sure that you are ready and prepared. So this process here in the Right Start classes that you guys are taking will prepare you for any job position, just the process of thinking about it, going into that mindset of applying for a job, applying for grad school. And if you're doing a gap year, please still create a timeline for yourself for graduate school. Do not rush. And if you're rushing, you may need to just take a pause, take a deep breath, and get your mind centered and focused. And one of the things that Beth said, and I just want to echo it, is be kind to yourself. You may not know what you want to do, and guess what? That's okay. Not everyone is and I put it in air quotes, a traditional student. What does that mean for all of us? We're all different people with different experiences. You're SSS students. You each have a story like any other student, right? So as you go through this process, take your time with yourself. Take your time to figure out what you want to do. Feel no shame about your decision. Just know that it's the best fit for who? For you. For you. For you. Or for you. Or for you. For each person, it's going to be different, and that's okay. So don't be held back by someone else's process. Let your process be your own, and I just want to really emphasize that, because there's a lot of pressure sometimes. You're a first-generation student, you have to come, you have to do this, you have to do that. You have to do what works for you, because you're the only person that can sustain it, okay? So that's just my echo.
One last point I want to put, even in graduate school and gap year, there are mentors. There are people who are there to help you. They really do exist.
They're not mythical.
They do exist. Even when you have to cry, which I did through graduate school, they're there to support you and help you through the process. Lean on them. They've been through the process. Say, hey, I need help. Hey, I don't know what's going on. Hey, I need to talk to somebody. Go to those mentors. Just as you come to us, we're supporting you. You're leaning on us. We're supporting you. There are people at the graduate level. Now, this woman that we saw today, Philippa, she will help you. You don't have to necessarily go to Pitt. She will help you. She's not even in our program, but she will help you. Other than this panel of people, we have people beyond us that will help you. Ask for help when you need it. All right? Don't be ashamed. I don't know what's going on. Ask. Ask for help.
Everybody wants you to be successful.
Yes.
That's how society thrives, is when you're able to follow your passion, be successful, and contribute to the process. So if you know that that's something you want to do, and that's a problem that I had, that I learned and I'm learning through, it's okay to not know things. It's okay, like Beth said, to ask questions. And it's okay if you don't know. Guess what? You just don't know. There's so much information in the world. How can you keep all of it here? Right? So ask.
But if
Someone else will know.
But if you know how to find out,
Yes.
I don't know, but I'll find out.
Yes. That is the best answer.
Or I'll find out for you from someone else. So.
Yes. So if we don't know,
Yeah.
we know someone who else. Who will
When
know.
you guys are looking at grad schools, which will be part of your next unit, so you will receive your question packets Friday. Those of you at home who are watching this, you should already have them along with this video. So you'll receive your packets. But when you're researching, some other things to look at besides what Ms. Carter and all of us have said, Lisa mentioned this a little bit, and so did Michelle, about having that experience. Some graduate programs actually require professional experience.
First.
Like the MBA program, they want you to have 3 to 5 years of experience before you go to school here at Pitt for the MBA. Also, standardized tests, the dreaded standardized tests. Some programs don't require them. Mine did not. That's one of the reasons it appealed to me. Besides that Pitt would pay for it. But yeah, I did not. Who here did you guys have to take?
I had to take the GRE, but there was no cutoff score, which was.
Oh, okay. All right.
I took it, but mine didn't require it.
Okay.
I was for another program, so yeah.
And you didn't take
I
it?
didn't
Yeah.
take it.
So keep that in mind as well. I know a student I'm currently working with in SSS, that was one of her requirements is I can't take the GRE, so let's find a program that does not. Part-time versus full-time. That's something else to consider. And I was fortunate that some of my all of the classes that I took in the iSchool were recorded. So I could do it online or in person. And for me, that was an advantage because of this job. We have a lot of different things. Sometimes I couldn't attend class, but I would when I could. But I signed up as an online student, and then I talked to the professor so that she knew that sometimes I would be coming to class. So just keep these things in mind. And there's a grad school panel tomorrow night. For those of you in the room and those of you at home, by the time you see this, the grad school panel will be over. However, for all of you, it's tomorrow night at 6 here. Or if you can't attend, and those of you at home, it'll be recorded. So it'll be on the YouTube channel. And we also have last year's on the YouTube channel. So if anyone wants to watch it, we have an SSS YouTube channel. So go ahead and feel free to do that. We'll have different people from different places in their journey through grad school. Those who are just starting, those who went through it, those who are in it. Okay? So keep that in mind if you're free tomorrow night at 6 or watch the video.
Can I have one last point? Whether it's grad school or it's a gap year, whatever it is, make sure that you have a healthy support system. And a part of that healthy support system is you being healthy. So you're the main part of it. And just make sure that you have people, family, advisors, mentors, just someone other than yourself that you're able to bounce ideas, talk about your process, and just be comfortable in just sitting there. And that person just sits there, because sometimes that's all you need is just to sit quietly and look at someone else and say, all right, thanks for that 20-minute stare off. That was amazing. Whatever it is that you need, just make sure you're creating it for yourself.
And to top that all off is that we do have materials like the praxis, the GRE, MCAT, all those booklets, those prep booklets available in our library. Okay? That's important because those books are expensive. But we have them available in our library if you would like to utilize those resources for those tests. All right?
And if you fit a certain income level, you can get the GRE fee waived. That's the only test that they do that for right now, but we're working on, pressuring them to do others. But yes, if you have to take the GRE and you fit a certain income level, you may get that fee waived.
Or cut in half. They do.
Yes.
They reduce it.
All right.
Free reduced lunch is good for you.
Last words from anyone? Any questions? Okay.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank
Bye,
you.
guys. Ciao.